Welcome to our 52nd episode. It has been one full year since we started this podcast, Women Creating Wealth. And I'm so incredibly grateful to you for listening, for being here for the journey, for being supportive, asking your questions, liking our YouTube channel, and just in general being awesome. I hope that this year has helped you get closer to your goals of wealth. It certainly helped me to get closer to my goals of wealth. Enjoy this episode, and I look forward to seeing you on season 2. This week, I want to talk a little bit about financing. What if you want to get a mortgage to buy your first short-term rental? Well, I'm here to tell you it's not easy. Why is it not easy? Because banks don't care about how much research you've done, how great the short-term rental market is in your area, nothing. They like guarantees. They want to know if you have a lease, a signed lease, then they're willing to count that income toward your income, add it into your income to help to make the numbers work. But if you are doing short-term rentals, they don't care that you can get maybe 2 or 3 times the amount of money because it's not guaranteed. There's nobody locked in with a lease. So what are some options? If it is your first short-term rental, maybe you should buy it as either a second home for yourself or as a primary residence for yourself, right? If you are buying a multifamily home and you plan to make some of the other units short-term rentals, that's okay if they're rented right now. So let's say that you're buying a 3-unit building and you're going to live in one of the units. And right now the other 2 units are rented. Fantastic. So live in the one that you're living in, keep the tenants there, and fix up the one where you are. And then as soon as one of those other tenants moves out, and you can always encourage them, you can always incent them when you're ready for them to move out. And their leases that maybe raise their rent a little more than they want you to, or just say, hey, I really want to move into your unit because I'm fixing up the building. You have the option of moving out or moving into my unit, whatever you want to do. But the point is, as long as you have some reliable income in the other 2 units, when you buy the property, the bank is happy. They're not going to check up on you and 2 months later find out that you kicked everybody out. And actually, if you're a little bit handy and you're doing things in a way that will give you the maximum amount of equity, that means you're probably going to be fixing up the place. So this is what I recommend. Okay. It's totally off topic. We just went on a little tangent. If you want to get started in any type of real estate investing, here's a great way to do it. Make the first property you buy a multifamily property. Move into 1 unit, go through that unit top to bottom, fix it all up, make it nice, do the kitchens and baths, make sure everything's updated, beautiful floors, whatever you need to do in order to make it a really desirable property. I mean, you can rent a kind of not that great place to somebody who's doing a long-term rental because they're just going to pay less and they don't care. But for short-term rentals, it's a little bit different. I mean, people don't really want to arrive for a short vacation. They'd rather pay more and have a nice place than, get a bargain and have a potential problem while they're on vacation. So if you're thinking of short-term rentals, you move into the first place, you make it beautiful, and you can even leave your furniture there, leave everything there when you move on to the next unit. As soon as somebody moves out, you move into the next unit, you fix that up while you are now doing short-term rentals in your original property where you used to live. Now you have the option when that unit's finished, you have the option of either renting that out to a full-time person, to a long-term tenant, or you can, if the short-term rentals are working out great, you may want to continue with that. And then you move into the 3rd unit, fix that all up, and then you're ready. You've got at least probably a couple of years into it, and you've got some equity, hopefully, and you've got definitely put some sweat equity by fixing up the place. So at that point, you can decide what you want to do. Do you want to sell it? The current tax law states that if you sell a home where you have lived for at least 2 years in the past 5 years, then you can protect $250,000 worth of equity. So what can you do when you are selling a multifamily? This gets a little bit tricky, but actually you could have lived in 2 of the units for 2 years each. What happens with a multifamily is that 1/3 of it is each third is its own thing. So if you're living in a third of it, and then before that you lived in a different third of it, then potentially 2/3 of it will have that protection. And then the other third, you only could have lived there for a year, obviously, because that's the way the math works. But if you condoed it, you could do that, right? You fix one up, you condo it, you sell it within 5 years of when you moved out, and then you do the next one, Anyway, there are lots of things you can do, lots of ways to protect your income, to protect your assets, but none of these have anything to do with what I said this episode was about, which is getting financing. So the point of all that was, if you buy this place and you are planning to move into it, you should be able to buy it as a primary residence, even though it's a multifamily. That means you can do an FHA loan for 3.5% down, or a regular standard loan for 5% down, and not have to pay 20 or 30% down as you would as an investor. So once you've got that place all bought and ready to go, now let's say that you want to buy a place in a little bit more exotic location. Well, the first time you do that, you can buy it as a second home. Normally, a second home has lower down payment requirements, and it has lower interest normally because it's yours versus an investment. Banks feel, rightly or wrongly, that if it's an investment property, you don't have anything at stake and you're likely to let it go if times get tough. That could be right. It could be wrong. I mean, obviously, if it's your primary residence, you're going to do more to hang on to it than you would if it's an investment property. But to me, if it's an investment property and it's making money, I'm going to do more to hang on to it than I would my single family, which is just costing me money every month. So that's a piece of advice. You heard, if you listened to the last couple of weeks, we had the short-term rental seminar, and one of the people asked about that. Well, what about financing? How do you finance a short-term rental since the bank won't count any of the income toward your money, towards your income? Well, those are two ways that you can do it. They both require that you have the income on your own to pay for it. In the case of the multifamily, you've got the other 2 units, the other 3 units, so you're okay in that regard. But in the case of the vacation property, all you're doing is being able to put a lower down payment. It's not going to help you to qualify for the actual loan. So in that case, you might want to talk to your loan officer and see if there's anything that you can do. And there again, you may want to rent it out for a year to a long-term tenant. And that way you can qualify. You've got the property. Once you've got it, right? It's all good from there. Is this clear? Is this making sense? Are you picking up what I'm throwing down here? Trying to think if there's anything else about that. The other things you can do are, you always have the option of getting a loan from friends. The first short-term rental that I purchased, I did it with friends. I had saved $40,000, and I had 2 friends who were each willing to put up $25,000. And we took that $90,000, and that's what the property costs, and we bought it. And then I went in and fixed it up. A year later, I was able to refinance the property for its newly increased worth. I bought it for $90,000. When I refinanced it, it was worth $210,000. So I was able to get a loan for $160,000, which means I recouped all of my money. I paid back my friends with interest, and I still had some money in my pocket that I could use to then put a down payment on another property. That's actually the BRRRR strategy. And it works better if you're renting it full time, because then you can get more money for it. That required me to qualify with my own income, and they were only willing to give me 70% loan to value because they knew that I was renting it as a short-term rental. They knew it was not my second home. They knew it was an investment property. And that's because the income showed up on my tax return from the year before. So yeah, you've always got the option of bringing in a friend. And you could even, those friends, like in my last example, that was a loan. I paid them back with interest. They were not partners in the corporation that owned the building. They were lien holders. So it's different. You could also buy a property with another person as your partner, and then you can potentially work on it together. Sometimes you can say, I'll find the property, I'll do all the work, you put up the money, and as soon as you'll be making money every month along with me, right? I'm doing X, you're doing Y. It doesn't always have to be you don't always have to put up half the money, is what I'm saying. There are lots of other options. There are as many options for financing as there are dollars in the world. You just have to be, you could potentially, here's another idea. You could potentially have the seller to give you some money towards the property. You can have the seller do the financing, right? If they're making money, that a lot of these places in these vacation home in vacation areas, right, in resort areas, there are properties that have been passed down from generation to generation, and nobody has a loan on them. So they would be in a position potentially to give you a loan at favorable terms. It's probably going to be more than what they're going to make if they take that money and put it in the bank. And it could also help them with taxes, because instead of getting nailed with a big chunk of taxes right away, they're going to be able to defer those taxes year upon year as you're paying the mortgage. So basically, they're paying taxes on your loan payments rather than paying a big chunk of tax on the sale of the building. Be creative. If you're ready to start with short-term rentals, you know how easy it is. You can start with your spare bedroom. You can start with you're sleeping on the couch and they're sleeping in your bedroom. If you want to do it, there are lots of ways to do it. And I would love to help you. So if you're interested in starting, if you're ready to start and jump off the cliff, then click the link in the show notes, womencreatingwealth.net, and take my free course. Why not? What do you got to lose? Okay, the day you hear this, I am getting ready to fly to Rome to start my 3-week cruise, my 2-week cruise, and have a great 60th birthday. And I'll actually be in Santorini, Greece on my birthday, because this cruise stops in 5 Greek islands and Malta, starts in Rome, ends in Barcelona. I'm really excited. My first cruise at 60 years old, my first time in Greece. It's about darn time. Have a wonderful week. And if you're turning 60 this week, happy birthday. Take care.